We want to be really sensitive to where a victim is in her own realization of her story. When I suspect abuse, I rarely use the word abuse. It's a big and scary word, it's a confusing word, and it's also asking her to believe something she might not be ready to see yet. So I'm going to be really careful. I'm just going to ask her, as she's revealing details to me, I'm just going to be asking for more information. What was that like for you? Has that happened before? What was a time that was particularly intense? And I'm going to be collecting adjectives. I can think of one woman in particular. We just made 3 buckets. One when her husband was demanding things from her that were unreasonable. Another were things, the times and moments in her life where she was dismissed. And the other were moments in life where her husband was indifferent to her. And so she'd bring stories, and I go, boy, that had to be difficult to be dismissed. You had a deep concern about this, and he just rolled his eyes at you. Other times it's just the indifference to her pain. She came home from a surgery, and he bought himself and the kids takeout, didn't even make sure she had water. And so I'm not saying, I'm concerned your husband's abusive. I'm just slowly over time pointing out patterns. Boy, there, I saw some indifference towards your heart, towards your physical body. I saw you being dismissed. And so I'm trying to help create categories where they then can see patterns emerge. So the majority of women who don't understand what's going on in their home, they present more meek, fearful, and anxious. Then there are women who will have read a book on abuse, began to understand what is happening, and their presentation is often different. They often are angry. Their language is colorful. They're making very confident statements about their husband's heart and his behaviors. And oftentimes at helpers, that can be off-putting to us. It's like, boy, she's talking about her husband in really judgmental ways. And I think at that moment, it's really important to take a step back and understand she's actually a moment of bravery, right? She's repenting of her sin of previously concealing the evils in her home. And it's actually, she's learning to speak about the evils in her home. And that's actually sanctifying in her sanctification process. That's actually a good thing. How she's doing that, of course, is sloppy. We might be uncomfortable. There's colorful language. But we don't want to clean up her language. We want her to be able to express what's going on. Certainly what she has been enduring are things that the Lord would be angry at. And then we trust in time the Lord is going to help shape that into a lament. So I just want to caution you, don't be put off by a victim if they are angry. Understand that these are things that make the Lord angry, and trust that the Lord is going to help you shape her anger over time. So if I have a friend that I'm suspecting is being abused, I want to be very careful and tender in my approach. I'm going to be slow and patient. Over time, I'm going to ask her questions for her to reveal stories. I don't want to overinterpret what's going on or say with clarity, I know this is the case, that you're being abused and you don't, and you need to listen to me. She has this boss man living with her at home that's controlling all of her decisions. And so you want to be a guide, not a rescuer. She has a rescuer in Christ. And that's really uncomfortable. As I have talked to women and I'm worried about their safety, or I've heard about a gun or a particular physical violence episode, my wanting to step in and rescue and to keep them from the danger often causes me to bulldoze over a victim. And so one thing we want to be really careful about is keeping her in the center of her story, keeping pace with her. We want to be alert to everything, but the most important thing is keeping on track with where she is, what she is willing to understand, to acknowledge, who she is willing to talk to. Oftentimes women will see a friend who's being abused and they say, need to go talk to the pastor right now. Well, the woman who's being abused knows that if that happens and her husband is confronted, that could make her situation worse or more dangerous. So when I'm talking about staying at the victim's pace, she really is the only one who understands the amount of danger she's in. She's the only one that really understands the punishments that she's going to face. And we want to go really slow. And again, with where her permission, have her permission for the next step. Can I call some counselors for you? And vet them. Would you be willing to go see one? You want to give her options. You want to give her help and resources, but you want to present her with options, not a map saying this is the way that she has to respond to her situation. A couple other considerations. If I have a friend and I'm concerned that they might be abused, or I'm a pastor and I'm looking at a marriage now differently through a different lens, there's some basic guidelines I want to make you two aware of. One, if you're suspecting abuse, You also want to consider that this person is probably monitored electronically. Again, many of the victims I work with, their phones are tapped, their text messages are sent to their husband's phone. They see every communication. They're often followed. So you want to be very careful about when, where, and how you have conversations with potential victims. You also want to be alert to the fact that you might encounter something that feels overwhelming to you. You might hear about physical abuse that makes you concerned for a woman's safety. And so I would just really encourage you, whether in my book or online, find a safety plan, find a victim advocate in your area, work with a local shelter or church leaders who are experienced, and help that woman build a safety plan, layers of protection if she needs it. We want to be mindful that we're stepping into some situation where we see the tip of the iceberg and there is so much else going on. We just want to be really, again, I keep saying slow, because we don't really know what we're encountering. We don't want to be afraid, because the Lord doesn't want us to be afraid, but we want to be wise and discerning that when we make an error in this area of care, it can have huge consequences. One of the gifts that the Lord has given us is each other. He's given us His Word, Himself, His Spirit, but also each other. And oftentimes that's how we learn. I know I've been blessed by people speaking into my life, people showing me concern. And so I think in this tender area of marriage, we're often afraid to butt in, to offer advice, to peel back the layers of someone else's suffering. It's a marriage, it's a privacy issue. Or I'm afraid to meddle because the stakes are so high in a marriage. But I just would encourage you, this is just one way that we are called to love our sisters in the Lord. He calls us to speak truth, to care for the vulnerable. He calls us to name sin. He calls us to limit the ability of another's sin. And so this is just a way that we walk out the Christian life by being good neighbors, in a sense. We notice things. I always say, if the Lord causes me to notice something, He's putting somebody in particular in front of me. He's asking my heart to be curious. He's asking me to enter in, as He did. He so sacrificially entered into our worlds. And so I just say, remember the way the Lord has come to us, in a sense, and if He's putting someone particular in front of you, to pray for the courage, to pray for the wisdom, and to kind of tiptoe in. It's okay to go slow, but again, if He's put somebody there, I would just say, Lord, I see something, so I'm gonna start asking questions. Oftentimes when we encounter abuse in a marriage, we are easily overwhelmed. There's so much to attend to. There's children, there's safety. What would the Lord say about this? What's the particular severity? And it's easy to be overwhelmed and feel out of our depth. And I would just say, have two things to that. One is the Lord promises to give wisdom and to guide you. You are not alone in helping them. You also have a helper. The other beautiful piece of that, which might not seem beautiful, is that we cannot solve oppression. Only the Lord can rescue and redeem. We have the honor of watching and being instruments of His hand and care, but it is such a big problem that we are really dependent upon Him. And I say that's beautiful because we get to have focus on what the Lord's doing and not so much on what we're doing. And there's a great comfort in that.